أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي وصلى اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Inshallah we are continuing with the 21st flash on sincerity, and we did discuss probably the first rule, and we were in the middle of the second rule from what I can recall. From some of the highlights I can recall is we were discussing what the satanic view was in terms of I think that was in the first rule, basically not to let the egotism rule us, rather, or our evil commanding side of us, basically, which is the one that kind of doesn't listen to the guidance or the consciousness. So don't let that, but let the consciousness side of human beings rule over, our human being. And the verse was, nor do I absolve my own self of blame. The human soul is certainly prone to evil, unless my sustainer do bestow his mercy. Quran chapter 12, verse 53. So just trying to recall, so I think there was some discussion on being true to our human self and not being self-centered, as in, being in a selfish kind of seeing that I am the only one who is, I don't need any dependence on the owner of the universe or the sustainer. So it was more of we brought in the example of how the Quran presents the story of Adam and Eve and their encounter with Satan. And Satan's view was in terms of comparison of the body only, whereas how the Quran presents that is what the, wrong kind of attitude one could have, which is just a comparison of superiority of one with the other. And the comparison, although everything is created by the same owner, so fire, one being created with fire versus one being created from clay, was the way the Satan was looking at things. And that brings in the self-centric kind of view. So, and we kind of touched upon the altruistic way that human beings need to do good works. That's how the sincerity comes into play, where, you let the good works happen. So, and also the first rule tied, what we discussed was the relationship with our Lord. So that takes precedence. That is what is important, rather than doing comparisons and judging other people. So it is more of how as a human being you can live peacefully and working in a group, in a community, trying to do good works. But that's just a summary of what I kind of recall from last time. But let's again reread this. I think we read the first two paragraphs of the second rule, so I'll reread them and then if there's anything we need to discuss, we can go back and discuss this. But I looked at it briefly, and I think it's just a very straightforward kind of discussion or rule reading. But let's go over it. So your second rule: this is not to criticize your brothers who are employed in the service of the Quran, and not to excite their envy by displaying superior virtues. So not to excite their envy by displaying superior virtues. For just as one hand cannot compete with the other, so one eye cannot criticize the other, nor the tongue object to the ear, nor the heart see the spirit's faults. Each of a person's members completes the deficiencies of the others, veils their faults, assists their needs, and helps them out in their duties. Each of a person's members completes the deficiencies of the others, veils their faults, assists their needs, and helps them out in their duties. Otherwise, his life would be extinguished, his spirit flee, and his body fall apart. Similarly, the components of a factory's machinery cannot compete with one another in rivalry, take precedence over each other, or dominate each other. They cannot spy out one another's faults and criticize each other, destroy the other's eagerness for work, and cause him to become idle. They rather assist each other's motions with all their capacity in order to achieve the common goal. They march towards the aim of their creation in true solidarity and unity. If even the slightest aggression or desire to dominate were to interfere, it would throw the factory into confusion, canceling its products and results. The factory's owner would then demolish the factory entirely. So, O risale-i students and servants of the Quran, you and I are members of such a collective personality, worthy of the title of the perfect man, worthy of the title of the perfect man. We are like the components of a factory's machinery, which produces eternal happiness within eternal life. We are hands working on a dominical boat, which will disembark the community of Muhammad, upon whom be blessings and peace, at the realm of peace, the shore of salvation. So we are surely in need of solidarity and true union, obtained through gaining sincerity. So we are surely in need of solidarity and true union, obtained through gaining sincerity. For the mystery of sincerity secures through four individuals the moral strength of 1111. Indeed, we are compelled to obtain it. Yes, if three olives do not unite, they have the value of three. So olives looks like the number one, but if if they don't unite together as in one straight, you know they have the value of three, one plus one plus one. But if you put them together, just like strings of rope, it becomes, although each individual string can be broken easily, but when you put the strings together into a rope, it becomes very strong. So they have the value of three, but on uniting through the mystery of numbers, they acquire the value of 111.
That's good.
If 4 times 4 remain apart, they have a value of 16. But if through the mystery of brotherhood and having a common goal and joint duty, they unite coming together shoulder to shoulder on a line, they acquire the strength and value of 4,444. Indeed, numerous historical events testify that the moral strength and value of 16 self-sacrificing brothers have exceeded that of 4,000. The underlying reason for this mystery is this: each member of a true, sincere union may see with the eyes of the other brothers and hear with their ears, as if each person of a true union of 10 acquires the value and strength to see with 20 eyes, think with 10 minds, hear with 20 ears, and work with 20 hands. Each member of a true, sincere union may see with the eyes of the other brothers and hear with their ears, as if each person of a true union of 10 acquires the value and strength to see with 20 eyes. Think with 10 minds, hear with 20 ears, and work with 20 hands. And there's a footnote for that, so I'll read that. Yes, through the mystery of sincerity, heartfelt solidarity, and union produce innumerable benefits and are also an effective shield and point of support against fear and even death. For if death comes, it takes one's spirit. But since through the mystery of true brotherhood on the way of divine pleasure, in works connected with the hereafter, there are spirits to the number of brothers. If one of them dies, he meets death happily, saying, "My other spirits remain alive," for they in effect make life continue for me by constantly earning me reward. So I am not dying. I live in respect of merit through their spirits. I am only dying in respect of sin. And he lays down in peace. So that was the second rule. And if anyone would like to have any comments that they would like to share, because I think it was pretty straightforward and we've been discussing this. So I'm trying to see if there's any topic we can discuss on this, but there's certain thoughts and suggestions that the author has been emphasizing on, of not to criticizing your fellow beings, not to criticize your brothers and sisters who are actually employed on the same path as you in terms of the service of the Quran. And also it is not really wise or helpful to excite their envy by showing your superior quality, superior values. So just intimidating someone is not something that is helpful to the purpose and your relationship with your Lord. That is a disservice to the Quran as opposed to a service. So it is harmful. So yeah, that I think that was he does bring that out also later on, that how the example of the factory, how each and every um, tool member of the factory cannot supersede the other. Everything is made for its own purpose, for its own strength, with its own strength. So just like there are certain skills every individual may have, and they can contribute a particular skill set to whatever the purpose in their work, whatever they're doing. So just like in the factory, every part of the factory, there are thousands of parts. There are different sections in the factory right now. In the division, maybe there's one that assembles something. There's a quality, there's a testing. So all those different parts, they all work together. So even one is not supposed to dominate one part, one area. One part is not supposed to dominate. Otherwise, it defeats the purpose that the whole product that one is building in that factory gets disturbed. So the slightest aggression or desire to dominate were to interfere, the whole factory would go into confusion, and the the factory would not be able to build the products. And of course, that was interesting how the author puts it. The factory's owner would then demolish the factory entirely. So if the students of the Quran who do not need, if they do not work together in harmony, and if there is domination where one tries to take over the other, then the whole purpose of the universe, which can be taken as analogous to the factory, would not be there, would not be needed. So,
Sorry, stand up.
Brother Ali, please go ahead.
going. You go ahead, please.
Okay. Yeah, if anybody has any comment or any additions, please raise your hand and we can take it.
Yeah, I think it's a good point that you mentioned about how the balance gets destroyed if anything within, just like the author is giving the example of a factory, but I think like even when people are working in team or anything, people are assigned different roles, and if one of them is just out of it, then it just hinders the whole growth of the whole team, or we can take it at a community level as well. Or
it's interesting how it works in the order of the universe. Let's say the human body itself, if some part is not really working properly, and there are signals that indicate that this needs to work together, and they all have their own strengths, their own way of whatever they're assigned for a purpose in their existence, and everything tries to balance it out again. Just like if you use one leg as more than the other, then somehow the balance and harmony gets distributed such that there's more weight on the other. There's a balancing act that happens. Same thing in the celestial movement of the bodies. If some star or the rotation just goes at a different speed than what is set at, then the whole universal order kind of gets disturbed. And I mean, according to the way the science tells us also that, it would just collapse or go out. The universe can just go out of hand if something doesn't follow its designated course. So whatever we see in the creation and universe also follows whatever their purpose in existence is, their designated course. And in our human behavior, in our attitude, in our worldview, how we are acting and interacting with fellow beings, we have to keep that same balance and harmony, where avoid any sort of criticizing or critical behavior, which kind of may not be that important, significant, because everybody at the end has their relationship with their Lord and is trying to establish for the common absolute truth, which everybody identifies themselves with. So yeah, and then of course he gives the practical. When the author talks about how the students of the Quran, they should work as a collective. They are a collective personality. The community of Muhammad, upon whom we blessings and peace, as the realm of peace, the shore of salvation. So the true union and solidarity goes along with the sincerity. And he points out the sincerity through, how it gains strength, union. As a physical examples, you can see, it's like, as I was giving the example of the strands or the threads, and then when they are put together into a rope, it builds a strong rope, right? And same thing with the contributions and the way with the individuals. If everybody works individually in a self-centric way, or they call this in organizations called a silo organization. They just, although everybody can share in, maybe that whatever the one is working on, it can be shared on by the other members, other teams, other companies, but they just do that silo kind of work or ethics. And right now there are studies being done on how silo organizations actually do not work, whereas, but that is how, at least in management of things, this is one of the topics that they discuss. But same thing here in the how the, it's a mysterious way of how union actually is not like a straight addition kind of, but it's just like he says, 1 + 1 + 1 is not 3, but it becomes 111, which is an incredible kind of union. It's, as he says, it's mysterious, but this is how the strength of the unity is.
I have one question on this second paragraph that you're just going over. Pretty much what you said makes sense about student of the Quran are a collective personality stemming from Muhammadan truth or prophetic message. So, but what does the author mean by here, where he says, so we are surely in need of solidarity and true union obtained through gaining sincerity, or the mystery of sincerity secures to 4 individuals the moral strength of 1,111. Indeed, we are compelled to obtain it. As in just giving an example of 4 individual versus.
Right. So it's not going to be 4 even though it may be 4 individuals, it's not 4 people, but it becomes, whatever we say, 1,000.
Oh, I see. Just tally up the ones, 1, 1, 1, 1. Like
right.
That. Oh, I see.
1,111.
Oh.
So he explains it in the next paragraph.
I see. Okay. Makes sense.
So,
thank you.
All right. So if anybody would like to add anything to this, please. Yeah, Brother Ali, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Sorry, I couldn't follow what was going on last 5 minutes maybe. So I was going back to the beginning, actually, this superiority, displaying superior virtues. So I just wanted to share you seeing that almost all, not almost all people who are now in the room are from, here and there, but in the United States. The culture of the United States is not based of being humble in one's ideas and one's presenting himself. You know that everybody is made up of building their resume, and they are proud of whatever they did. You cannot imagine, if they visit their grandmother in hospital, they say, I take care of my family. I visited my grandmother. They put it in exaggeration, but resume. So that is very important, this being not exciting your friends' envy, the sense of envy, by displaying superior virtues. It is very hard in American culture to apply this. If you are humble here, out of modesty, the people come from Middle East and apply for a place, for a job, or for a place in the universities, colleges. They present their resume, and they are so modest. I, for example, I was ashamed of saying that I know Arabic, I know Ottoman language, I know how to read and write in Arabic language, apart from Turkish. I was so shy to say that my Arabic language, language knowledge was something not really perfect. It is true, but I realized that those people who take 4 hours a week for one for one semester, write in their resume, they know Arabic for 4 hours a week for one semester. Oh, I was shocked. If they know Arabic, I am professor of Arabic. So, anyways, this is really important. Among ourselves is important, but in our relationship with the society is important. We have to adjust ourselves according to the values of the society. That is also Sunnat Rasulullah. It means how the Rasulullah was behaving, not in an arrogant way, not imposing himself, but saying, I am like you. I am one of you. Sahibukum, Quran says, this is one of your friend. But says, I don't claim that I know ghaib. I know everything. I know nothing. Just I know what my God inspires me. That is modesty. That is true. That is modesty, which is the, if you like, in the Tao of Iman. But because of this worldwide culture of this materialist people, if we say, for example, if someone asks me something, if I say, I don't know, it's a serious matter, of course. If they ask me where, for example, I don't know, some place is, I say, I don't know, and go. But about something that related to my religion, related to my subject, specific subject, or my profession, it is hard to say that I don't know. You have to use, at least while this question is raised, check something from Wikipedia and learn something and say. So they say something. At least they know something. Sometimes we play this game, but it must be for our relationship with this civilization where this kind of value speaks or is valid. But among ourselves, even I said it now, which is very sad, very sad. So I was reading what Mariam wrote. So it is very sad that I said it. I am ashamed of saying I know some Arabic, yeah, some grammar, some balagha, something. I am ashamed of it. I am ashamed of saying that I read this many tafsir of the Quran, because I think, well, I might have read it, okay, but it doesn't mean that I understood everything. I perfectly learned everything, and I am very expert on the subject at all. So if someone asks me, for example, I went to a hospital one day. So let me tell you, I went to the hospital one day, and the nurse asked me, are you okay to express yourself? Because knowing that my accent is very heavy, so knowing that I am not a native English speaker, do you express yourself? Do you understand? I said, yeah, somehow. And he said, he didn't say anything. She didn't say anything, went and picked up a telephone and said, for the language translator, please. And she asked me, he asked me what my mother tongue is, native languages. My native language is Turkish, I said. And she said, we need a Turkish translator. Come on. So the Turkish translator came. She said, come on, this man speaks English somehow. He can express himself. I don't need to be with you now. So, because I cannot say, of course I know. Of course I can communicate. That's what the culture is. So this is very important for us who are living in this culture. Thank you very much. That's what I wanted to share with you.
Thank you, Brother Ali. That was funny what you shared. Okay, anybody else would like to share anything? Because I know this is an interesting topic about bringing like a lot of cultural elements also into it. Because that's how we are exposed to it. We live in a particular society, and there are certain trends and values, of course, that are there, but again, it's for us, how we live by it. And just like the Brother Lee shared about at the prophetic time, he was part of the culture and the society of that time as well. Although within his personal life, his values are pretty much as the Quran kind of dictates. And that's what I think we need to be mindful of. So if there's no comment, then I think we can go to the third rule. Yeah, so this one also, let's see how we go about it. Your third rule. Okay.
Maybe we can ask somebody to read it.
Oh, Mariam, would you like to read this? Mariam from Ohio. Are you there? If not, that's fine. Okay, your third rule. You should know that all your strength lies in sincerity and truth. Yes, strength lies in truth and sincerity. Even those who do wrong gain strength from their sincerity in their wrongdoing. Evidence that strength lies in truth and sincerity is this service of ours. A small amount of sincerity in our work proves this claim and is evidence for itself. For 7 or 8 years of service to learning and religion here has surpassed 100-fold the 20 years of service I performed in my native region and in Istanbul. And in these places, the people assisting me were 100 or even 1,000 times more numerous than my brothers who work together with me here, where I am alone, with no one, a stranger, semi-literate, under the surveillance of unfair officials and persecuted by them. I have absolutely no doubt that the service I have carried out with you these 7 or 8 years and the moral strength which has resulted in success 100 times greater than formerly has arisen from your sincerity. I have also to confess that by your heartfelt sincerity you have saved me to an extent from the hypocrisy which is used to flatter my soul under the veil of fame and renown. God willing, you will be successful in gaining absolute sincerity, and you will cause me to gain it too. You should be aware that it is because of this mystery of sincerity that Ali, may God be pleased with him, and Ghaus al-Azam, may his mystery be sanctified, honor you with their miraculous wonder-working and wondrous vision of the unseen. They offer you consolation in protecting manner and applaud your service. Yes, you should have no doubt that this attention of theirs is because of sincerity. If you knowingly harm it, it is from them that you will receive punishment. If you knowingly harm sincerity, it is from them that you will receive punishment. You should bear in mind the blows of compassion in the 10th flash. If you want to be backed by the support of such spiritual heroes and have them as masters at your head, gain complete sincerity in accordance with the verse. but give them preference over themselves. Quran chapter 59, verse 9. If you want to be backed by the support of such spiritual heroes and have them as masters at your head, gain complete sincerity in accordance with the verse, but give them preference over themselves. Quran chapter 59, verse 9. Prefer your brother's souls to your own soul in honor, rank, acclaim, and in the things your soul enjoys, like material benefits, and even in such innocent, harmless benefits as informing a needy believer about one of the fine truths of belief. If possible, encourage one of your disinclined companions to inform him, so that your soul does not become conceited. Encourage one of your disinclined companions to inform him, so that your soul does not become conceited. If you have the desire to tell him the edifying matter to gain the reward, it surely is not a sin, and there is no harm in it, but the essence of sincerity between you might be damaged. All right, so this is another one of those straight, um, basically sharing the author sharing some of his experience during his time as well. And I think the last paragraph kind of has the principles that I think the author kind of feels where he where he gives the reference to the verse, but give them preference over themselves. Okay, I think there's a highlighted of the footnotes. Yeah, so this was in reference to the sincerity that, so Ali ibn Abi Talib was the son of Prophet Muhammad's, upon whom be blessings and peace, uncle, who from a young age was brought up by the Prophet, upon whom be blessings and peace, who later married him to his daughter Fatima. Ali was one of the first to believe in the Quranic revelation and was famous for his heroism in battle. He became the fourth caliph. So some biographical information about the individual. And Sayyid Abdul Qadir Jilani, known as the Ghaus al-Azam, was the eponym of the Qadri order and a towering spiritual figure in the history of Islam. He lived 470, 1077, 560 till 561 or 1166, and is buried in Baghdad. So I think the purpose of this, how the author is presenting the mystery of the sincerity, because the message that is coming or is being propagated is, the same message that was first as revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. And that is the guidance or guidelines that is for mankind, for every individual, and whoever has been benefiting from that guidance, that from the prophetic guidance, and how the Quran is teaching. Or yeah, Brother Ali, your mic is up. Would you like to speak?
No, it was a mistake. Sorry.
All right, you can always come in if you, because this has some historical reference. So just to highlight the reference of historical, so the individuals as they come to support the, the purpose, and or the form the unity of individuals, so that we all support the absolute truth, so everybody is kind of saved. Or like in the previous, I know the author gave the reference of a boat as you embark on the shore, like a Noah's Ark. You come in successful, in peace, and as your salvation and your purpose in existence. So this is again the the historical references to show that, basically to form that union between individuals, and you know, basically keep sincerity. But I will pause here because if anybody would like to add anything or say anything before we go into the verse, but give them preference over themselves. Quran chapter 59, verse 9. And of course, if anybody wants to add to any of this, please, I'll be glad to hear your comments. But I think it's pretty straightforward. It's just, like prefer your brother's souls to your own soul in honor, rank, acclaim, and in the things your soul enjoys, like material benefits, and even in such innocent, harmless benefits as informing a needy believer about one of the fine truths of belief. So, this touches upon the principles that we've been studying, about the reward is only with my Lord alone. And so I should not be seeking a status here in this world, or is not to gain a reward from a temporary reward here. Although I may get it, but that's not the purpose. The point is only to be, sincere, as in, where I have not doing anything for the purpose to claim anything or for rank or for honor, but it is for the benefit of the truth. And thank you for raising your hand. Please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for leading this discussion. I want to clarify or understand something, and if it is a distraction, then as a moderator, please feel free to address however you want. So in the previous point, and even in this one, I'm a little distracted by the author's wording around the mysteriousness of sincerity. When he talks about in the previous one about numbers coming together, and in this also in the second paragraph, that is because of this mystery of sincerity that Ali may God be pleased with him, because generally what we're reading, what I understand is that the virtue of sincerity, the practice of it, what it means is very clear to us, like that or is being made clear to us throughout this flash. So far what we've read, it makes sense, it's clear, and nothing about it nothing about the concept or practicing it and its benefits to the individual and the community. Nothing about it seems mysterious to me. It's been made clear. So how did you guys, did this come up for anybody else? And how did you sort of understand, how these, for example, this example, the example of the numbers, it's an interesting one, but what about sincerity makes 1 and 1 11 and not 2? So that's kind of what I'm thinking around, but I can understand if it's not addressing any main point in this paragraph.
Thank you, Farah. And my friend would like to talk about it.
Sure. Let me see if I understand it well, but I think from what you have addressed, it seems what the author is presenting here. So 1, 1, and 1, like separate, different entities. So if I can do a lot with just, let's say I have 3 just objects, 1 and 1 and 1, or we can go with 2, forget about 1, 2 and 2 and 2, right? So if I combine them, I can either add them, then I get a total of 6. I can multiply them, I get 8, or I can just put them together next to each other, just as one whole number, and then you get 222. So I think what the author is suggesting here, that if anything that we do as a collective personality, so like in the example of putting the twos together, there's more strength in it, there's more power in it, just even within the order in the universe. If you set up those numbers as such, it's a higher number as opposed to just doing any sort of operation over it, just like addition or multiplication. It gives you, less strength, less value. So I think the point he's trying to make is that there is a blessing, is something very mysterious in unity, in working like with a sincere goal towards achieving the truth. Yes, we all have individual personality and relationship with the source of our existence. And at the same time, we all are interconnected within the realm of this universe in terms of being creation, pointing to an absolute creator. So all of those two that are like either being operated on, they're still pointing to the same absolute creator. But if you just leave out the operation sign, the plus or the multiplication, so it's just the two by themselves, and that's something without veil. It's just two, like two, like all these objects pointing to one creator, rather than if you put like a plus sign or minus sign in front of all those, so it seems like a veil. But that's just how I understood it, and I don't know if that's exactly what you were looking for. Hopefully I didn't confuse anyone, inshallah. So let me know, Farah, what do you?
Yeah, thank you. So anybody else would like to, Brother Ali, please go ahead.
That's a very good question, actually. Yes, we have been studying what ikhlas is. Now, we have studied on the 20th flash what the nature of ikhlas is. And we are studying now the practical side of this ikhlas, especially among the people of truth, while they are serving the truth. Now, in an extremely belief says, ikhlas means doing something not for your own sake. It means not on your own behalf, but doing it on the behalf of the owner of truth, which is al-Haq, God himself. Everything is created, is true, and they come from the true, who is God, the creator. So it is the principle of the author. We have to pay attention that it is the principle of this author of this book, to explain the truths of the Quran as it is revealed by the truth, God, al-Haq, God, uses the witnessing of the universe, which is also representing being assigned to the truth of the Creator. They are all together. Quran speaks truth by definition. Universe declares truth in their disposition through the way they exist. And we have to understand the Quran by the witnessing of the truth manifested in front of us in a palpable, material sense that we can see, we can experience, we can practice. So I will give you another example from the universe. If there is a load here, 100-pound load, or let's say 200 pounds load, I cannot hold it. I cannot lift it up if I need to by myself. What I do now, for example, I try, get tired and leave and sit aside, and another person comes. He tries and tries and tries individually. He cannot lift it. He gets tired and sits aside. Third person, fifth person, whatever. As he gives the example, 4 people came and individually tried, couldn't work. That is how the universe is established on this rule, on this order. But if these 4 people get together, stand next to each other, they can easily lift 200 pounds of the load. That is how the universe is, how the order of the universe is. The author uses here for another reason that mathematically, it means logically, it makes sense that if, let's say, 4 of 2 numbers, let's use another, number 2, individually, 4 of them, that makes 16. Logically, according to the principles of the order of the universe, which is God's will, manifesting his way of creating and teaching me how should I take lesson from it. So if 4, number 2, 2 numbers, stand aloof from each other, it makes 8, sorry. It makes 8, all right. But like the example, coming together and lifting the load together, they can do it. It is logical also if 4 numbers, number 2 gets together, logic says, 2,222, which is the principle of the creator. Sincerity, by definition, is acting in the name of God. God demonstrates us in this way, in physical form and in logical form, demonstrates us that if we are sincere in our action, all of us will act together for the sake of God, not for the sake of me. It means I wouldn't stand by myself alone. You wouldn't stand by yourself alone, but we have to stand together in front of God together. So our point of support will be then God, not my point of support is my strength or my knowledge. Your point of support is your knowledge. No, my point of support through sincerity will be God. Your point of support will be from, if it is sincere, then it will be with God. So God says, now 2 people came to me and needed together the support from me. So I show them in the creation, I show them in the logical, understanding or comprehension that if 2 people get together with me, they won't be strength-wise 2, I will make it 11, as I demonstrated in the creation. That is the secret of sincerity. Secret of sincerity, for example, if you act in the name of God, it means you gain your strength from God. If you act in your name, you gain strength from your name, your muscles. That's it. If you speak for the sake of God, then you have to be preferring your friend over you, because the purpose is to express the truth, not to express your truth. The truth belongs to God. Leave the truth speak, not me. I should live it. And I should prefer you to tell the truth, because I'm not going to speak on my name anyways. I'm going to speak in the name of the truth. So when my friend speaks, I would say, oh, she's going to speak in the name of the truth. Is there any difference? No. At the end of the day, the truth will speak. If we have this consciousness, it means total selfless, being selflessness, dissolution one's ego, and putting God in action, not I put myself in action. That's why we have to prefer each other, which is the verse is also describing the certain attitude, وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ, the certain attitude of the friends of the prophet. They were in a battlefield. That was the actual occasion of revelation of this verse. In the battlefield, they were wounded, and somebody brought only water enough for one person, and this person offered one of the wounded people in the battlefield. He realized that there is another sister, brother in the war. But there were sisters, but they were not fighting. They were helping the fighters. Anyways, that is another subject. So brother was lying next to him, again, wounded. When the people get wounded, they lose blood, so they need water. Although it is not really medically healthy to have water while your wound is bleeding, that is something else. But he preferred his brother over his own need. And وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ became a principle for every human being, which means as long as you tell the truth, I should stop and let you speak, because I would prefer the truth to become apparent, not my presentation of the truth. So when I tell the truth, rather than you, as far as I'm concerned, then I may associate myself, my own ego, my own expectation of ownership over the truth. You see, I represent the truth. Of course, I becomes really very strong. But if I prefer you to say, as far as I am concerned, I would say, I mean, my attitude would say, no, you see, truth represents itself, not me. So the truth, which I support, is presented. That's it. That is the point. That is how, in practical terms, which we are studying now, the practical terms of obtaining the truth, that is how, in practical terms, sincerity is lived by among ourselves. It means the sincerity will be prevailing among our relationship. That's why very important, to practice the sincerity within myself. I shouldn't, that is another subject which is out of this topic now. I shouldn't expect you to be sincere. No. That is arrogance. I should expect myself to be sincere. That's it. That's it. That's my responsibility. That is very bad if I say, oh, sister, brother, be sincere. It is arrogance. It is not advice. It is just arrogance. That means I'm sincere and you are not. So that is another thing, but very common among people. Brothers, sincerity, or brothers, sisters, sincerity is important. Be careful. No. Speak to yourself. As far as the sincerity is concerned, speak to yourself. But other messages, okay, but the sincerity is very sensitive. It's a very personal thing. I have to consider about myself to be sincere. No, I should never advise sincerity to others while we are arguing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Ali. Anybody else would like to add anything or make a comment? I see some comments on the chat. Let's see what the comments are. So there's some conversation going on regarding what the it refers to. Yeah, it is the sincerity. If you harm sincerity, yeah, then it is from them that you will receive punishment. So being a sincere individual is what it's referring to. So as Brother Ali just said, that everybody has to look at themselves. This is for our own understanding. If there's any other questions,
How
yeah,
about the part that is highlighted?
maybe you can ask.
Yeah, so the, the the sentence that says, if you knowingly harm it, I think, like you said, it refers to sincerity. If you knowingly harm sincerity, I think within your own endeavors, then it is from them that you will receive punishment. Them as in who? What is them referring to in this context? From
Because I think it's the whole concept of the absolute truth that these two individuals identify themselves with. So it harms the purpose of the absolute truth. So that's what I at least took away from it, that, because it's the whole legacy of the prophetic message that is kind of hurt.
So you will receive punishment from them, all the like prophetic
because
lineage, like all this.
Because the strength is actually tied to the absolute being. We all get as any student of the Quran actually gets their strength not from their individual self, but from the absolute source. But I think, yeah, maybe
shouldn't punishment come in from your creator of the creator of the universe? So like here it seems that them is referring to Ali ibn Abi Talib and Rasul Azam, just like mentioned by the author. But and it makes sense in terms of what you're saying, because it's coming in. I think everything gets destroyed, but I don't know. Yeah, it's a good thing to look into. So yeah, so that's the question. I don't know. What do you guys understand from this sentence? If you knowingly harm sincerity in terms of the prophetic practice and message, where anything should be done in the sake of the creator of the universe, not in my own sake, and I should be concerned about checking in my sincerity. So what is them referring to? It is from them that you will receive punishment. That's a little bizarre.
All right. Would anybody want to ask? Yes, Brother Ali, go ahead.
I think it refers to the representatives of the truth or practice of real sincerity in their life. So I would say representative of the practice of sincerity in the Muslim heritage. So two of them are mentioned here, Imam Ali and Ghaus Azam. But it means you will, of course, these people will not be happy with you because they are the representatives of the not necessarily this particular person. Whoever represents the truth will resent because of my breaking the principle of sincerity. It means they won't support me, they won't pray with me, for me, they won't be, they will be unhappy with me because I am with not following sincerity will be harmful element. It means negative effect in the solidarity of the people of truth. Negative element. Another example came to my mind. For example, have you seen any, for example, concrete structure cracked by a plant root or trunk? Have you seen any of them? Anybody?
Yep. Yes.
Yes. I am amazed, HPS. I am amazed. You know how wood in its very fine form in the root cracks the concrete. Why? Because all the cells in the body of the root work together, multiply together, and slowly, 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 they support each other. At the end, cracks the concrete. Again, that is an interesting, to me, interesting example from the creation, the order of the universe. It is the principle of the Quran that to give the examples from the creation in order to demonstrate the reality of the belief in ghaib. For example, belief in God is demonstrated through the creation manifested in the universe. Belief in the hereafter is demonstrated through the way the things are created in the universe. There are maybe, can I say 100? Maybe exaggeration, but at least 20 reference to the truthfulness of the resurrection by giving the example to the creation of the plants, and they are dying, they are being recreated in the new form again, and the human development of the human embryo in the womb of the mother is given an example, saying that look how we create you through one stage of existence, tower at Wara, one stage of existence into another, and every new stage is a new creation. And then says, is it not God, is it not the one who does all this, cannot recreate you, which is demonstrating in front of your eyes? So it means giving the example from the creation, how the, if you like, claims or offerings of the Quran is true. For example, Quran says, all your strength is in sincerity. مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ حُنَفَاءَ. Now, these are going to be the successful ones. How? Why? How do I know? The universe witnesses it. If you know how to define sincerity in the right way. Thank you. That wasn't not related to the problem of pronoun them. That came to my mind again. The them is the sincere members of the people of truth will be harmed, and they will be resentful for my being not sincere because I'm harming them. That's how I understood this text. These two names are examples.
Alhamdulillah, thank you so much. That was a good way to look into it. Thank you. Let's see if Miriam Ostomer, is everything also clear on your end? Feel free to put it on the chat, or feel free to ask any follow-up also if you have.
All right. I think we are all good. So unless anybody else has anything on this, we can move on to reading. So the fourth rule, this is to imagine your brother's virtues and merits in your own selves and to thankfully take pride at their glory. This is to imagine your brother's virtues and merits in your own selves and to thankfully take pride at their glory. The Sufis have terms they use among themselves: annihilation in the Shaykh, annihilation in the Prophet. I'm not a Sufi, but these principles of theirs make a good rule in our way in the form of annihilation in the brothers. Among brothers, this is called Tifani, that is, annihilation in one another. That is to say, to forget the feelings of one's own carnal soul and live in one's mind with one's brother's virtues and feelings. Forget the feelings of one's own carnal soul and live in one's mind with one's brother's virtues and feelings. In any event, the basis of our way is brotherhood. It is not the relationship. It is not the relationship between father and son, as in literal sense of brotherhood or sisterhood. So that's it. Or sheikh and follower. It is that of true brotherhood. At the very most, a master ustad intervenes. Our way is the closest friendship. This friendship necessitates being the closest friend, the most sacrificing companion, the most appreciative comrade, the noblest brother. The essence of such friendship is true sincerity. The person who spoils this true sincerity falls from the high pinnacle of this friendship, possibly to the bottom of a deep depression. There is nothing onto which he may cling in between. Yes, the way is seen to be two. There is a possibility that those who part now from this way of ours, the great highway of the Quran, are unknowingly helping the forces of irreligion, who are hostile to us. God willing, those who enter the sacred bounds of the Quran of miraculous exposition by way of the risale-i will always add strength to light, sincerity, and belief, and will avoid such pitfalls. O my companions in the service of the Quran, one of the most effective means of attaining and preserving sincerity is contemplation of death. Yes, just as worldly ambition damages sincerity and drives a person to hypocrisy and the world, just as worldly ambition damages sincerity and drives a person to hypocrisy and the world, so the contemplation of death causes disgust at hypocrisy and gains sincerity. The contemplation of death causes disgust at hypocrisy and gains sincerity. That is to think of death and grasp that this world is transient, and so be saved from the tricks of the soul. Yes, the instruction the Sufis and people of truth receive from such verses of the all-wise Quran as every soul shall taste death. Quran chapter 3, verse 185. Every soul shall taste death. Truly you will die one day, and truly they too will die one day. Quran chapter 39, verse 30. So this verse led them to make the contemplation of death fundamental to their spiritual journeyings. It dispelled the illusion of eternity within this world, I would assume. Yeah, the source of worldly ambition. They imagined themselves to be dead and being placed in the grave. With prolonged thought, the evil commanding soul becomes saddened and affected by such imaginings and gives up its far-reaching ambitions and hopes to an extent. There are numerous advantages in this contemplation. It is taught by the hadith, which says something like, frequently mention death, which dispels pleasure and makes it bitter. Let me just read another paragraph and I think I'll stop. However, since our way is not that of the Sufis but of reality, we are not compelled to perform this contemplation in an imaginary and hypothetical form like they do. To do so is anyway not in conforming with the way of reality. Our way is not to bring the future to the present by thinking of the end, but to travel in the mind to the future from the present, in respect of reality and to gaze on it. Let me read this again. We are not compelled to perform this contemplation, which is about the death, contemplation about death, in an imaginary and hypothetical form like they do. Okay, so this is, let's see, what's to do so is anyway not in conformity with the way of reality. Our way is not to bring the future. So it's not about bringing the future or something that happens later on, but to live in the present moment, to the present by thinking of the end, but to travel in the mind to the future from the present, in respect of reality and to gaze on it. Basically bring that into our realization. Yeah, this is something that is a reality. I feel, okay, so yes, dispensing with the need to imagine. One may look to one's own corpse, the single fruit of the tree of this brief life. Dispensing with the need to imagine. Yes, dispensing with the need to imagine. One may look on one's own corpse, the single fruit on the tree of this brief life. One may look on one's own death, and if one goes a bit further, see the death of this century, and going further still, observe the death of this world, opening up the way to complete sincerity. So we'll stop here, and would you like to?
Yeah, so
Thank you.
definitely this was a long text, and perhaps if we don't get a chance to look into all of it today, inshallah we can proceed next week. But general takeaways seems like in this fourth rule, the author is emphasizing on this concept of brotherhood. And I was really thinking, like, you know, why are we specifying it as such? Why not just humanity? Why brotherhood? And which is like friendship, right? Rather than categorizing it as
It's a concept.
such. Yeah, brotherhood. So yeah, that's why I wanted also to a little bit understand more what does he mean by brotherhood, because you know, like how he starts off saying that these terms, annihilation in the sheikh and annihilation in the prophet, what does that mean? Where I do understand that one is concerned in terms of the overall well-being of people that they are friends with, in terms of the people they share the same worldview as. But yeah, well, what does he mean by annihilation in the sheikh? And then he's explaining it to forget the feeling of one's own carnal soul, like stop being selfish, and rather than acting on your for your own sake, you have to live in one's mind with one's brother's virtues and feelings. So
Or sister.
right, so it's the same concept. I think it has to do with when we are following the same worldview, we are trying to help each other out, and everything we're doing is for the sake of the creator of the universe. It's not in my own sakes. So that that little clan becomes brotherhood or sisterhood, as in friendship, and then we can take it at a larger scale like humanity. But right now he's focusing on this. But I don't know. I was just curious to know, what does he mean by annihilation in the prophet and annihilation in the sheikh? Because annihilation sounds like negative in terms of, oh, Ali Murmur. Yes, please. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
That's a common practice in the Muslim heritage. Among the people of Tasawwuf, the Sufi tradition, they follow a sheikh, but they don't follow a sheikh like you and me follow a scholar. They follow a sheikh and say that I annihilate my ego completely, I have nothing to claim at all. Whatever the sheikh says, I will do it. That is annihilating his ego, his self, not his material self, of course, but his self, and submitting completely to the will of the sheikh. That is called, whatever the sheikh asks, and of course asks them to do, they do it with no questioning. That's called annihilation. That's a practice. Still, it is really valid. Maryam said like Yunus Emre, but Yunus Emre didn't follow this tradition. But okay, the name doesn't matter really. Sufism, whatever it is. For example, if someone says, I know nothing at all and I'm not going to use my free will, I will leave my free will to the will of my mentor. The same thing. Same thing in Christian tradition, mentor, or they call it something else in tradition. In Christian tradition, they have not mentors, they have not master, come on, pastor. So it is the same thing, following the pastor, whatever the pastor says, they do it. It is annihilation in sheikh. But he says, in practical terms, ultimately we have to annihilate fillah, in God. But practically, what does it mean? We have to submit our will to God's will. But of course, this in practical terms means I have to follow what God requires me to do, not as far as my worldly life and worldly choices is concerned. For example, I feel talented in, let's say, studying music, which is just not true. And but my father wants me to study engineer, of course, although or medicine. That is what the Muslim people are dying for. So it doesn't mean that I have to do this and that, but God says, follow your talent. That's it. That's what I have to follow God. Nursi says, as a group of brotherhood, and people of the truth, we have to follow the principle of annihilation in brotherhood or sisterhood. Brotherhood is the general term. It definitely includes sisterhood. With no definition. That is the Quranic principle. All the masculine form used in the Quran is valid at the same time for women. That's Arabic grammar. But this is not my interpretation. That is the principle of the Arabic grammar. But if feminine form is used, particularly, no, it does not necessarily apply to men. That is grammar side of it. Forget about it. So brotherhood is used in this sense as well. It means I have to follow the desires of my brothers, preferences of my brothers, in order to keep the harmony within our brotherhood relationship. Why not humanity? Now, we love everything in the universe as they are created, since they don't have the free will, and they, in their existence, they represent God's name, and they, if you like, exalt God's name, proclaim God's name, and they don't own anything in their disposition. So we are brothers. We are brothers of the, that very famous expression is very important, used by the author again, Ikhwanuna kainat, our brother, the universe. That is excellent. But when it comes to human beings only, when they choose, they may not choose the truth, although their existence proclaims God, but their preference of ideas, belief system may not proclaim God. That's why in this particular subject or content, we cannot say every human being. Why? There are deniers. How can I unite with them? But I love their existence. I respect their choice, but I cannot unite with deniers' ideology. And as long as a man represents in his action the ideology that he follows, which is denial, I cannot unite with him. But if he asks me to give a glass of water, I would. If he asks me to say that this is nature, naturally happening, I wouldn't. Only in this case, we should be very careful not to become humanist in a sense that every human idea is right, represents the truth. No. We are free to deny, we are free to confirm the truth, we are free to be hypocrite about the truth. It means, I assume I say with while I am with the Muslims, I am Muslim and get along with life like this and this kind of things. Be having two faces. I mean, hypocrisy. You know better than I do. So that's what we should understand annihilation in brotherhood. Yeah. Tefani fil ukhuwa. So this is, or tefani fil ikhwa. That is the general expression used among the believers. Thank you. If it is not clear, we can talk, but the time is up. I spoke a lot. I'm sorry.
Jazakallah khair. Yeah, that helped out a little bit. So what I understand is pretty much being in conformity with your brothers or sisters. So like you were saying, like in the Sufi tradition, people come to a consensus based on what the sheikh says. However, if you don't follow the Sufi order, then you need to come to a consensus based on what the whole group is going to say, as in brotherhood or sisterhood. That's what I took away very much briefly, but inshallah.
Can I interrupt you very briefly? What the brothers say, no, for the benefit of the brothers. I should prefer anything your benefit to my benefit in any case. That is tefani. It means annihilation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So preferring my brother's
Benefit to my benefit.
wow, okay. Inshallah, let me I think that's a good place to think about right now. Inshallah, we can stop here for today.
Inshallah, we can continue next time also with maybe the same reread, maybe.
Inshallah.
This one.
Inshallah, yeah.
Okay, inshallah. Thank you everyone for your participation. I know it took a little more time.
Notes? Does anybody have notes?
If anybody wants to read their notes, they're welcome to. Give it a few seconds. Mariam, do you have some notes if you would like to read or share?
Yeah, if Mary Mostermer got some notes, we can always take in some time. Yes, let's go for it, Mariam.
Sorry, I didn't know that you were like asking exactly for like my kinds of notes. I thought you were like asking for like small kinds of notes on the text, and I didn't have any. So for the whole entire thing that we read, for the first rule, my first note was, well, my only note was, do not display superiority virtues. It is not only not polite, but it makes others jealous. My first note for the third rule was, prefer someone over yourself. Ikhlas means doing something not for the sake of another, but doing it for the all-truthful one. The truth belongs to God. The point is to spread the truth, not your truth. Never suggest sincerity to another while fighting. If you knowingly harm someone else's or your sincerity, from it you will receive punishment. My first note for the fourth rule was, every soul shall taste death. It was a verse from the text, and so is this one. Truly you will die one day, and truly they too will die one day. Realize your present and respect it. And that was my last note for the whole entire text.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Mariam, for sharing that. And you got some applause. Alhamdulillah. So inshallah, with that, let's conclude for today. Inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma alamtana. Innaka antal alimul hakim. Wa akhiru da'wahum alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Al-Fatiha.